Hello and welcome to the From the Spirit World podcast, a legendary Avatar, The Last Airbender, and the Legend of Korra podcast for overlyanimated.com. This is the From the Spirit World rewatch, the definitive Avatar fans rewatch from the biggest Avatar fans you know. We'll be reflecting on Avatar and Korra almost 20 years later after being huge fans of Avatar while it originally aired. I am your host, Dylan, and today I'm joined by Mel
Hello?
and Allie.
Hi.
Today, we are up to episodes 12, 13, and 14 of Book 1 as we continue going through Book 1 3 episodes at a time. The Storm, the Blue Spirit, and Fortuneteller, the Fortuneteller. Some pretty great ones to go through today. Very excited to get into everything from all these episodes, especially the last one, even if it's not the most important, but it's going to be fun. We're going through Avatar season 1 3 episodes at a time every week here. Search for From the Spirit World or Overly Animated anywhere to subscribe to either feed or our dedicated FTSW rewatch feed to get all of these podcasts. We are on video. You can go to youtube.com/overly animated to watch the video version of this, but if you're listening to audio, that's just fine too. We will be in full spoiler territory for all of Avatar and Korra throughout this rewatch, regardless of what episodes are being discussed in the podcast. Warning for that. And you can leave comments and send your questions to podcast@overlyanimated.com to be read maybe in the book 2 ones when we get once we catch up to you guys. So here we've got The Storm, written by Aaron Ehasz, directed by Lauren McMullen. The Blue Spirit, written by Mike and Brian, directed by Dave Filoni. And The Fortune Teller, written by Aaron Ehasz and John O'Brien, directed by Dave Filoni. We also have a few month gap. It wouldn't even be noticeable by modern standards, but we have a June to September gap between Blue Spirit and The Fortune Teller. As I think I mentioned this earlier, I might have said the wrong episodes, but they only originally had a 13 episode order for season 1 of Avatar, and then they got extended to the full 20 after. I kind of watched The Storm and The Blue Spirit kind of as a pseudo season finale 2-parter this go around. I never thought of it like that before, but I feel like it kind of works as almost like a first season finale for book 1. I think it's pretty interesting to think about that. But anyway, some big ones here. Mel, what was your experience rewatching these episodes?
The Storm is the one that I would always show people, like when I was trying to get them into the show, and be like, we're going to start the middle of the season. Because that was like kind of the one. So, holds up, rewatching it, still great. I think there's definitely there's a ton of stuff that's introduced there that obviously is gonna, we get lightning bending for the first time, Azula makes a cameo, that sort of thing. I will say, rewatching The Blue Spirit, having just watched the Netflix show, I feel like there's a version of their little Azula and Zhao working together that could have worked.
Given you see him standing there
Yeah.
in the storm.
Well, standing there in the storm, and then in the Blue Spirit, and he just gets a letter, and it's like, oh, I got promoted, and it's like, it's like,
Oh, you're imagining it's from
yeah,
Azula.
and
That would
it's
work.
like I could see a world where that was a better story, a better handled story. I also feel like we get more of his sort of skeevy bureaucratic side in the Blue Spirit when he's like, send a message to the Fire Lord and tell him how great my speech was, and then put some testimonials in there from some people who loved my speech, very, you know.
You're learning to appreciate Zhao, I can
Yeah, I'm becoming a Zhao guy.
Yes.
Were
And
you not
then
always a Zhao guy?
no, it was Dylan. Dylan was big on Zhao.
Other
I thought
people could
most
have
people
also
were.
liked Zhao.
I mean,
I
I didn't dislike Zhao. It's just I remember
think we appreciated
Dylan
him.
being big on
Yeah.
Zhao.
I made it a bit. Yeah.
And then yeah, I mean, then there's the Fortune Teller, which is an episode where I don't know why it exists.
Yes, you
Oh,
do.
for me and Allie's enjoyment. That's why.
um,
No.
but anyway, that's the quick takes.
So now we're not going to do filler talk again, but Fortune Teller truly a filler episode if you care about those terms. But it totally proves filler episodes have so much to get into. For better or worse, we'll see. Allie, what was your experience rewatching these 3 episodes?
Well, The Storm was always one of my favorites, like rewatching just years ago as well. I don't know if I would used to recommend it like Mel said. she would to like people who to try to get into the show, but I certainly would now because it's definitely one of the best, period. Um, I mean, you mentioned also, Dylan, that like this was initially supposed to end after episodes 12 and 13, and I didn't know that until just now. And I think watching those
You
two
must have
together,
known
no,
that.
I didn't. I did not. And watching them together, I think as like you said, pseudo season one finale, it works really well, especially because you get to like kind of get like a cliffhanger on Zuko's inner turmoil and like kind of process, I think, who he is as a character, which I didn't really do, I think, mostly because there was a lot after these episodes in the original run. So putting it into that perspective, I think they work really well together. Just Zuko and Aang, period. Those two episodes are great for their character developments. I'm still not a huge Zhao guy. I think he's great, but I'm not like, I don't stan him. I think he's a very good character. Um, the
Reasonable,
fortune
I
teller is
guess.
fun. I understand why, obviously, it's like filler or whatever, but it's a good time. Um, It doesn't hold up for me personally. It doesn't hold up as well as it used to, but I still have a good time with
Mm.
it. Like it's cute, it's fun, but like the drama for no reason,
Also,
the
I
romance
forgot that
drama.
what's her face? That's her first, the voice actor
Oh
for
yeah,
Toph.
Yeah,
Flower.
Flowers. Is that her?
Jesse Flower at the time. She
Yeah.
has a different name now. But yeah, before she's Toph, she's Meng
Dang.
in the Fortune
Yes.
Teller, which it's a very different voice. It's pretty impressive.
Always in the Earth Kingdom though.
True. Um, yeah, and to be fair about the pseudo season finale thing, Mike and Brian have also said that they think it was to Avatar's benefit that they always assumed it was going to get renewed. It's like they never felt the need to try to end the story early. So it's more just like they left off on an action-y point, but it's not like they tried to finish the book one arc early just in case. They assumed they were going to get to 20 episodes. So that's another important point. But yeah, no, if you look at the airing order, there's this gap between 13 and 14, and I do remember I feel like I remember starting to look online about Avatar maybe during this gap, maybe during these few months over that summer of 2005. And I feel like I don't have anything definitive, but that's probably my earliest memories of like browsing TV.com on Avatar. Was in this time period after the Blue Spirit, starting to see some like AMVs as we discussed last podcast, maybe some fanfics, fan art. So I think it's maybe when the Avatar fandom started to ramp up a little bit at this point.
This is also this stretch of episodes, specifically the Storm and the Fortune Teller, were a lot of AMVs got their scenes from those two episodes. A lot
And the
of very
fortune. Oh
different
yeah.
AMVs,
Yeah.
but
I've even
That's
seen an edit recently, again, sorry for bringing up TikTok, but of like Katara and Aang cloud bending to like this beautiful song. And I think the artists who've made that song saw the AMV and they were like, this is amazing.
nice.
So it
TikTok
still works. Yeah.
AMVs. Wow.
Avatar AMVs
Good.
are still being made almost 20 years later.
In
yeah,
like 15
Viacom
second
can't get
form.
you on TikTok.
Some of them are 15 seconds, some of them are like dead, like whole music videos, like 3 minutes long.
Okay, nice. I guess the U.S. government will get you eventually from
Yeah,
TikTok,
when they
though.
banned TikTok.
Yeah. Man, I love each and every one of these three episodes, including the Fortune Teller, which I know everyone doesn't agree with, but has always been one of my personal favorites. And no, I loved rewatching the Fortune Teller. I still think it's one of the best episodes of the show, like right up there with the Storm and Blue Spirit.
No
Uh,
way.
no, seriously, I'm gonna rank them very close together. It's I love it. I'll get into why I love it, but it's also like a personal favorite. But the Storm and Blue Spirit, they're so good. I've been talking about how the thing I've appreciated the most this rewatch is like the buildup of the lore and the details of the world and the details of all the characters as we kind of just knew, trying to watch it from somewhat of a fresh lens here. And, we took for granted maybe how we knew everything worked. And I really feel like the Storm is, and maybe to some extent the Blue Spirit as well, is kind of the finale of that lore buildup. Like it's like now we get to see what actually happened with Aang and Zuko's past after kind of getting us to a point that we're ready to hear all this in context. And I thought it works so well. I've always loved the Storm. I've always been super high on the Storm. I'm maybe slightly less high this time. I mean, we're talking like, I still think it's a great episode. It's just very talky exposition-y type of thing, and I think this go around I appreciated the Blue Spirit a lot more, which a lot of people said is one of the best episodes of the show, and I've been like, it's really good but maybe not one of the best. Well, I think at this point in my life I'm appreciating like the artistry of Avatar more, the animation, obviously like the storyboarding, the directing, and everything. Whereas back in the day, I was very much like the writing, the story kind of is what all was all that mattered to me. And I think maybe it makes sense given that I've done overly animated about a bunch of animated shows for 1,000+ podcasts. Now I appreciate the actual animation more. So seeing an episode like The Blue Spirit, which is just so gorgeous and has such incredible action sequences, I think the escape from the fortress, probably one of the top sequences of all of Avatar in terms of action animation. It's so incredible. The Zuko Aang dynamic building up to them in the forest at the end, which is a lot of episodes, but also handled well in this episode. I think the Blue Spirit jumps to the top of my episode rankings, whereas before it was a few paces down. I didn't truly appreciate it, I think, until now, and I think it's so good. Another thing I really appreciate is how the episode doesn't feel that, despite being like a kid's show, it doesn't feel the need to spoon feed you on why Zuko's doing what he's doing. Even though there's a scene that clearly sets it up, it's like I think it's pretty subtly handled, and I really appreciate that. So those two are amazing, and oh my gosh, the fortune teller. So obviously was a huge Katang stan as a kid. Allie, when I turned the fortune teller on, I wasn't like I didn't try to remember. Obviously, like I know what happens, but I didn't try to remember what was going to happen. And the first scene that came on, I was like, that was the biggest reaction I had.
For me,
maybe
it's like
to all
because
of
I
Avatar.
genuinely remember line for line almost like going in to rewatch these, especially the episodes that I really liked growing up. So
Well, you've probably seen it more recently too.
probably, but I also just like when I was watching as a teenager, I would play the episodes I loved the most, and that included the Storm and the Fortune Teller. So.
Well, I mean, I think this opening scene of the Fortune Teller might be my most viewed scene in Avatar. Like,
it doesn't surprise me somehow.
I can't tell you the visceral reaction I had to the scene coming on without me remembering until it happened. The necklace, the how do I look? All of your neck or just you? The sweet little guy like Momo, kissy kissy, someone's in love. Like, oh my gosh,
the teasing just hurts.
I love this I love this scene. I love this episode. It's so funny. This episode's so funny.
It's pretty funny.
It's
Sokka for me is a highlight in this episode. Personally,
Sokka's great. Someone had a pretty good bathroom break. Stuff like that. Big ears. Don't be like Meng is amazing. I think the Meng to Aang to Katara stuff is so real. I feel like that's part of why we connected with
calling her a floozy.
Floozy, it's iconic.
I'm shocked that like. Even now, I'm like, how did that make it onto the final edit of this episode?
2005?
Maybe.
Like, even in 2000, so Floozy, obviously you wouldn't hear Floozy. Maybe it's had some sort of resurgence. I don't know. But you wouldn't hear it now.
What's the Gen Z equivalent of Floozy these days?
I don't know.
Something very inappropriate. Yeah.
You know what it is.
Well, I thought they might be a little more creative.
For the Gen Zers, though, like, Floozy was also old-timey in 2005. Like, that was not a word we were using.
And then so you look it up and you're like...
and it's like, what? Yeah, as kids, I feel like we probably didn't know what it meant until the Fortune Teller. And it was like, wow, they said that?
She was calling Katara a woman of the night.
I feel like that they wouldn't have said. I feel like somehow you get away with it because it's like a weird word.
Yeah, like somebody at Nick like didn't. They're like, yeah, that's fine. They didn't Google
I wonder if they had to brainstorm words that Nick would approve. Because they get notes on the episode sometimes. Or if they just went for this right away and it somehow got it.
Yeah, I didn't. I genuinely just thought it sounded funny. I did not know what it meant at 13, 14.
That's an amazing. I mean, I'm sure we told you pretty quickly.
Yeah, you figured it out because of you guys, but watching it live, I had.
And I feel like it was like a whole thing where everyone, like people on forums and chats and stuff, would be like, "Yo, Google Floozy."
Yeah, it was a thing. We were like kind of scandalized, but no, I mean, it was. So yeah, it was that. There's the context. That's an incredible ending. I mean. Meng, amazing character. I love Meng. I loved her at the time. I think she's still like a standout side character here. And Katara Cloudbending, amazing. Powerful. I suppose he is a powerful bender. That Katara realization. This might mark the starting point of Katara seriously considering Aang romantically, if you want to see it like that. I think it's an amazing episode. It's also gorgeous JM episode. Like Aunt Wu, I think, is a great character.
He bent a volcano. Also, he fought a volcano.
And the Aang stopping the eruption
at 12 years old
sequence was. I think there's also gorgeous.
Shade to some other avatars out there who couldn't do that at their. Well, I guess he wasn't in his prime, but still.
Are you talking about Roku?
maybe.
Roku, yeah. I think we made fun of Roku about that later when we get the season 3 episode.
But it's also
Uh,
you mentioned like this episode is also gorgeous, and we were talking about the Blue Spirit, how that sequence is gorgeous. I'm glad you said that because it was done by that other animation studio that people like
I was
don't
gonna say
appreciate.
that. I looked up. I kept the credits rolling. I forgot Blue Spirit is DR movie.
Yeah, they did
That
a
was
great
shocking.
job.
I could tell
And
it
it's
was
like,
them from. They do something specific with the hands, and whenever I see that, I'm like, yeah, it's them.
Yeah, it's like
so I
more
yeah.
squishy looking.
Yeah.
I will caveat it's always possible that they did retakes at at the other studio. It's possible, so I don't really know exactly what happened because Mike and Brian eventually are frustrated enough with DR to go in a different direction. But it should be noted we call them the bad studio. They show
Do
up
we call
for
them that?
some episodes. I mean, I think we did, and I've been giving that context. They show up for Blue Spirit. I don't know if it took retakes or whatever, but like one of the most gorgeous episodes of the show. There are the Blue DR movie is really weird because there's a few of their episodes which are incredibly good looking, and then a few that are pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was their inconsistency they didn't like. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. That's my pitch on the Fortune Teller. I think it's I'm ranking it Blues. And by the way, I'm reverting into my rankings.
Remember, this
here.
is out
I
of
can't help
60
myself
something
with Avatar.
episodes. Oh wait, are you doing it like on a 1 to 10 or like?
No,
No,
he's
I'm
ranking every
the 1
single
to 60.
episode. One to
Yeah.
60.
Which I should be noted. If you're not an overly animated listener, I don't rank stuff anymore. I've gotten away from that. It's not important. It's dumb. I know rankings are dumb. It's not.
It can be fun.
It's a fun exercise.
Yeah.
It's not important though. So I'm putting Blue Spirit 1 and Fortune Teller 2. There you go. That's my
Number 1.
top 2 right now.
And number 2.
Blue Spirit 1. Then Warriors of Kyoshi, then The Storm. I think those are the 4 highlights so far, which are three out of the 4 here.
Okay, so far that's fair, I guess.
Yeah, so far, obviously, we've got.
You guys didn't put The Great Divide at number 1?
We put that. I'm putting that last.
Wow.
Allie, what's your quick take? Is The Great Divide overhated or is it appropriately hated?
I don't want to have to bring up the books, but there is something in the books.
There's something about The Great Divide that don't make me not want to read.
One of the tribes. I think have you not read the Kyoshi books?
I've read this part of the first Kyoshi book.
God, okay. Well,
I don't remember the tribe.
One of the characters is related to one of the tribes. I'll say that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but does that make the episode better?
No, but
Okay.
So
So you were just trying to shoehorn a reference in there?
maybe.
What
What do you take me for?
Yeah.
I still stand by. This is what I said, Allie, was that I think it's not a great episode, but I think there are ones that are equally not good, and this one
I
gets
agree.
a bad rap because of it being wedged between so many good episodes.
I
Yeah,
wholeheartedly
it comes
agree.
right before this 2-part season finale. Yeah, I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
Mel, what would you put number 1 based from these ones so far? The Storm?
Probably the Storm still, but
That's what I would have had in the past.
The Storm, Kyoshi
I did.
Warriors,
I will
Blue
say
Spirit.
I actually I'm way higher now on the Southern Air Temple than I would have been in the past as well.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Definitely number 5 on, right up there too. Yeah. You could say those are the top.
Waterbending Scroll is
Those-
also pretty great. I really like that episode.
Also a good one. Yeah, like we said, the only two, only like King of Omashi, which is still funny, and The Great Divide are kind of the only slight misses so far.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the early Avatars, the first 13 episodes, I mean, that's a great hit rate, especially compared to other shows of this type. So what do we want to get into here first? I mean, should we save Fortune Teller for last, I guess?
Shouldn't we? Do you want to go in order?
Okay, we can talk more about the Storm here. What's the highlight? Is it the Zuko flashbacks? I like what that Aang flashback gives. I feel like they get a little bit of a B to the Zuko's flashbacks A in terms of excitement in the episode, and we kind of know the result of him in the iceberg, you know. And I guess the Zuko stuff is a little bit more new information at this time.
Well, yeah, I mean, we knew pieces of obviously getting the whole deal with Aang stuff is a big deal, and the whole running the dream he has at the beginning is creepy, where he dreams.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but
They made it creepier too in the storyboards. Wasn't Gyatso supposed to they were supposed to show his skeleton, and it was supposed to do a Thanos kind of shifting away with the bones.
Okay, interesting.
Damn, you guys didn't know that?
No.
I'll find it for you.
Anyway,
Continue.
I find it.
But like I do think like for me the highlight in terms of the stories in the storm is Zuko's, just because we knew like really nothing about it. Like there was hints, but it was just like, oh yeah, the last time Zuko dueled a master, he got his face nerfed off, and that's all we knew. And like it does so much in like 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 telling you the details of what happened, setting up his relationship with his father, um like creating this huge amount of like, okay, like there's a very deep sympathetic compassionate young man in here who's like, and like he was punished for that and that sort of thing. Like I think it just like with such little information, because like there's a bunch of stuff we still don't even know yet, but like I feel like with just the like 3 or 4 flashback sequences we get, like we establish so much, and it like instantly makes him so much more of an interesting character than he was at the beginning of the episode.
The one Ali's reference was from the Guru, by the way, from that link you sent.
Oh, so, wow. Okay, what's wrong?
Suppose would have been later on, but still.
My bad.
No problem. Mel, you've been saying that Zuko's pretty I don't know if you said one note specifically, but kind of like just this kind of a simple character early on, and I didn't remember that was true so much like before the storm, that he's kind of not, he doesn't really have a lot going on in the show. He's just like a charismatic, like kind of interesting person, but he doesn't have like a ton of depth to his content really until the storm. It's such an important episode for him. And I'm interested to see moving forward if we get more varied content from Zuko now that we have some more insight into his past. Moving. I guess we get present content in the storm of he glances sees Aang. They share a bro moment, and then he doesn't choose to go after him. Gets
missed
his
opportunity to say bromant, but okay.
Bromant. Okay.
They get another
I guess
one.
that's like kind of the most varied, content from Zuko is that he doesn't go after Aang twice so far when he could have otherwise.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like now, I mean, like when we see him do that in Imprisoned, it's like, okay, whatever, like that's fine. But doing it here, it's like, okay, there's a guy here who's actually incredibly selfless, and I think I honestly feel like the version of it that we see in the storm is like they wanted a sort of like redux of like what you see in Imprisoned, but now we have all the context.
I think Winter Solstice Part 1.
Winter Solstice Part 1, thank you.
Yeah.
Now we have all the context, and like honestly, they probably didn't know the full context too. Even then, like I feel like the full sort of shape of Zuko's story probably wasn't completely there until very shortly before they were working on the storm. So,
Allie, what are your highlights from the storm?
I mean, like you guys have been like emphasizing, not that Zuko was like a nothing character, but like he was pretty, I guess, 2-dimensional. What did you say?
He ran.
He ran.
I will say the Netflix show, like, really, it takes the Blue Spirit, like, almost exactly. Like,
yeah,
rewatching it.
I think what they did with him in the storm is fantastic, and it's really what part of why I recommend people watch this episode if they're hesitant on like starting from the first episode of the season is because you like start like who Zuko is, and I did not like him in the beginning of the series, and watching the show originally, I didn't really like him until like after season 3. But he is.
Yeah, I don't remember what we thought.
Until after season 3, so after the show was over, is when you're like,
until after the show ended.
I guess I finally came around on him. Yeah.
No, when he started, like middle of season 3, he was all right. Basically, when he started to come around,
like,
because
I
was
Zuko here.
Yeah, basically that's when I started to like him. But this, I think, is perfect for just showing that he's like, really human and very well written. I will say, I do think the Netflix version did a great job of like building on what was already here, especially like with making him more, like Mel said, selfless, and like with the 44th Regiment, I think it was, making them real characters. I think that was great.
I like that change that they made and putting them on the ship.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Especially because, like, if you are like, I forgot what the name they gave him in the Netflix series, but it would be the guy complaining in
Lieutenant G, right?
This one.
He's G in the show.
Is he?
He just is like he's like way younger in the show.
Yeah,
they name him in the storm. He's older in
in the animated
show, right?
series.
Yeah.
He's older.
Yeah. By the way, this is way in the past by the time this comes out, but Netflix Avatar got 2 Emmy nominations, not for anything like above the line, just for visual effects and sound, but
For the,
so
the
deserve it
ones
for
that
visual
don't get
effects.
shown on TV.
Yeah,
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 great, of course, typical.
yeah.
Yeah, The Storm is still one of my favorite episodes of the whole series. It's great for so many reasons. I do agree that like the highlights lie with Zuko, but I always watched for like Aang telling Katara the story because like I love some good angst, and like I don't think,
Angst.
yeah,
Is
with two
that
A's.
angst with two
Yeah.
A's? Yep,
I
yep.
I think they do a really good balance in the original of showing like giving Aang time to like grieve and sit with his feelings and then go off later. And I think we talked about this last episode too, or not the last episode when we talked about the Southern Air Temple going to Kyoshi warriors. I think this does that better because it gives him more time to like discuss what he's feeling and why he's feeling that way and then just move past it. And I think it was done very well. And also it's pretty funny, like with the fisherman guy. I'm too
That is
young to
fun.
die. I'm
I
not, but
do
I still
like
don't wanna. That's still really funny.
Yeah. Some solid stuff. I think a lot of like mood setting with the storm itself,
Yeah.
and then kind of like a very moody mood based action act 3 of the episode kind of stands out. Avatar usually is like action, action fighting based scenes. This is more of like a emotional climax to the episode. After we hear their stories, we see it kind of physically culminate with the climax of the storm. It's a very interesting approach.
something I noted, and like, tell me how, like, you feel about this. Is this sort of like the first time we see Iroh in the form that like we know him as
Mm.
compared to how he appears in the beginning of the show? Like, there's not really like any comedic, like there's like maybe one or two, I don't know, like they
I would
kind
say
of like
maybe in the winter solstice where he's just trying to tell Zuko to turn around, but that's like not much of anything compared to this. I think you're
even
right.
that. I feel like it's very comedic. Like this is like I think the first time we've seen him like sort of like be the very like serious and like sagely type character that we know him to become. Basically, I mean, obviously, there's when we get to Bato, there's some stuff with
Oh
June and
God.
that sort of thing. But like by the end of this season, and in the beginning of the next one, like that's an Iroh that we would recognize pretty fully.
Hmm.
And I feel like this is the first time that it was like, oh yeah, like Iroh is starting to become who he is as well. It was just something I thought about.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We talked about how they kind of find Iroh as they go, and I think this is probably the culmination of that. And we'd start to see him, and yeah, I like that. This is his final form now that we'll maybe see him in after
His
that.
final form.
He lightning redirects in this episode, which another thing that they kind of just bring up, and then we'll follow up on later. This one they
Did you
actually go follow
guys,
up
do you
on.
remember like when you watched that scene, were you like, oh my God? Because I did not pay
Yeah,
attention
because
at
I
all.
didn't know that that was like a thing you could do. But like,
Yeah,
I feel like even when they show it there, like I feel like they didn't know yet really what lightning bending was because
Hmm.
it ends with Iroh looking like he almost did it by accident with his like,
Yeah.
you know, poofed out hair and stuff.
yeah. No, it definitely seems like Ihaz's writing style at this time, at least, was kind of bring up interesting things, kind of just put a lot of them forward, and then follow up on them later for ones that would like. And lightning bending is, I will say, is one that really pays off because they follow up on it, and it's a great thing, a great aspect of the show. So it's like a great call to just kind of put it in here, and it has its origins and just they're in a storm, an episode called The Storm, and so there's
Mm.
lightning, and so that's kind of where they go. But there are other things I think maybe we talked about in Winter Solstice Part 1, him seeing Aang in the spirit world that are not followed up on. So that's kind of the other side of
Did he do the
putting forth
monkey?
so many
Did
ideas.
he do the monkey with the ruby eyes?
I didn't see the
Do you
monkey in
remember
these
this, Allie?
Wasn't
The
episodes.
that the
monkey?
waterbending scroll?
Yes.
In the
Do you
waterbending
remember
scroll.
that monkey?
Mel's
Yeah,
obsessed with the monkey
I
Yeah,
now.
do.
because they didn't do anything with it.
It was just a one-off weird joke. I do
Wasn't
remember
it?
that.
It seemed like they wanted to do something with it.
I mean, it was weird that
Maybe
they focused on it and then wound up doing nothing, I think. But
Yeah.
it just came up as a joke after Ira was the one who was like,
Yeah, I don't
look at
know.
this monkey, I'm making the same face.
I'm putting my tinfoil hat on that there was something with that monkey.
Okay, well, hold on. Hold on, stay with me.
Is there
Because
a
there's
no-
a,
is there a
yes.
novel that the monkey appears in?
no,
What if it was in the novels? That would actual good use of the
Leading us
novels.
down
Talk about
the
monkey
season one
statue.
finale road, there's a monkey in the spirit world. There's a couple of monkeys in the spirit
Well,
world.
yeah, but
There's
he's not
the
like
go away monkey.
He's the
Yeah.
go away monkey, but then there's
Go
the curly-tailed
away.
blue nose who has no face.
Oh.
Yeah, that guy's
Oh, okay. Yeah, the bad. Yeah, no
scary.
face guy.
Different monkey.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
tinfoil hat in the trash now, I guess. That was my
Look,
one connection.
Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the spiritual representation of the statue. In the
That's
spirit world.
yeah, because Heibai got one.
Guess.
Heibai had a
Okay.
statue.
Okay, yeah, true. Yeah. Okay. Also in the Zuko flashback, as Ira's telling the crew, Zuko's standing up for the regimen that would be used as bait. We still have Silhouette Ozai. We mentioned before, they kind of build up to showing Ozai. They don't show his face for a long time.
Which was done masterfully well, I think.
I do remember when they finally showed him. And
Yeah, it
people
was such a
sharing
letdown.
That Squidward thing. Like,
Yeah,
oh no,
some
he's
Squidward.
hot.
Well, yeah, this is what Mike talked about in a recent podcast. Was maybe we think that the buildup is good, but the
payoff
the
is
payoff not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean,
good.
he just has
not a lot they can do there.
He just has a face.
Yeah.
Well, it could have made him scarier looking.
Give him the
We see
knockback.
Iroh,
how.
Zhao, and Azula in the crowd for the first time.
No, you were not yet in the depths of fandom stuff, Dylan. At this point, there were so many fanfics about who that girl was.
Yeah, really?
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember too much
Yeah.
about that.
There was a ton of fanfics about because people clocked her. They were like, "Who is this freak who's?"
Were any of them it's Zuko's girlfriend at the time?
I think I'm sure there was they were like, it's this person, it's Zhao's daughter, it's
Oh, yeah,
Like,
that would be good.
all
What if
these-
she's never mind. Not going there.
all these things. Because people were like, there's this weird lady right next to Zhao who's really into what's happening
Yeah.
Yeah.
right now. And then obviously we find out at the end that it's his sister, and then there was fanfics about that as well. But yeah, I remember that being a big thing. People were theorizing who the hell is this?
Yeah. That's great.
I think
Wild.
another good example of Avatar putting forth something, and then in this case again they cement the build up in the finale. So I think another good thing to bring up.
Just of all the things people would make fanfic of, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was it's it's hard. You would have to get right into 2005 considering it pays off same year, so we'd have before the identity's known, there's a narrow stretch of
Yeah, and you had the entire summer, because
Yeah.
it was so people were I think probably
Right, yeah,
a
that's
few
true.
people theorized that it was Ozai's daughter or something, or I feel like I read one where it was it's his bastard daughter who
Yeah.
is gonna all this.
It's kind of what I
crazy
was trying
stuff.
to insinuate before, but it's Zhao's bastard daughter somehow.
Listen, I definitely also read a fanfic where this was not the point of the fanfic. This was just a bit of backstory that was mentioned that Azula and Zhao were betrothed at
Yeah,
one point.
yeah,
And,
oh boy.
ugh.
Weird, but we didn't know. It's fair.
Yeah. Now I just want Zhao's granddaughter in the next series or something.
Yeah, Zhao relation. That would be interesting.
Come on.
Yeah, Zhao
How did we not do it
ancestor,
in
Did he
Korra?
Or
have
no,
Did he?
opposite.
Well, I guess he could have had kids without.
descendant. Yeah.
A family that he just doesn't care about. He's only obsessed with his career.
He's got
checks out.
5
It
kids
does,
that he
yeah.
never
Yeah.
mentions.
Yeah.
He
he's not
probably
interested.
had a lot of children he doesn't know about. Who knows?
Progeny.
Oh yeah, he's going all over the.
Maybe not a lot,
Yes.
but
It's
Have you taken a look at the guy?
One
I
in
mean, it's
5 people in the
probable.
Earth Kingdom at a certain
Those
point
mutton
can claim
chops.
descent from Zhao.
Everyone's descended from Zhao. I love that.
can't resist
Okay,
those
the-
mutton chops.
Yeah, who could? We get to the Aang flashback. I did appreciate. I love seeing the past Air Nation, and that's one of the things I liked about the Netflix show. Briefly there, Aang inventing the air scooter, him picking the toys that belonged to the past avatars. Obviously something that they took right out of the real world with the Dalai Lama selection. We get Aang being treated differently when he's informed he's the Avatar, and he's going to be sent to the Eastern Air Temple.
Which was
and
why
so
was
flies
he?
over.
Why was it not cheating for him to play with his friends when he was the only master airbender? But now
Yeah,
that he's
that
the
is true.
Avatar, they're like, "Nah, get out of here."
That's
is
what I'm
true, that
like.
is
It
true.
doesn't make any sense. They're just.
Did they have that the tattoos mean you're a master yet? Because they haven't mentioned it.
They
yet.
didn't
It
mention
wasn't
it,
mentioned.
but he's the only one with
He's the
Their
only one
age
with
with
the
the
tattoos,
tattoos.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting. And and then he goes in the storm, and he Avatar states, and we see it happen, which we saw in his nightmare earlier. Getting the full picture and getting his and he's getting the story and him running away. And I don't know, Netflix like going less harsh with it. It's like, this is not harsh.
Yeah, well, they
The story.
completely gutted
You
his
don't need to,
entire
like,
thing.
he didn't run. He didn't
He
need
was
him to
out
run
on
away
a walk.
forever. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I don't know. In this episode, it's not
Like, I don't know. I guess I get survivor's guilt, but in this, it's very potent because Aang, like, literally was like, peace.
Yeah.
Hey, well, yeah. When you get they were gonna send him away, and so
Hmm.
he has a reaction to that.
And
I
you
think
don't
it's like
even
very
get to see like
understandable.
Gyatso trying to fight for him too. He's like,
Yeah.
you don't get
He's like,
that
all
in
right,
the
whatever, sure.
adaptation. Yeah. Go on a walk.
So
Do your thing.
I like seeing Nang flashbacks as well, for sure. I think it's also really well done, and interspersing them.
And that's like the full circle moment at the end of the season, right? Because he's like, "Oh, I wasn't there when the Fire Nation attacked my people. Like, I can now be there to protect, like."
Hmm.
Yeah, and the parallels with their backstories, an important part of this. We get the aspect of the Avatar. It gives them hope. And gives people hope. He gives Zuko hope. In a weird way.
Yeah, that was also,
But
I did not,
Way.
when I watched that for the first time, I was like, what do you
it's a little
mean?
weird, but I like it.
That's good.
Um,
Obviously, it pays off.
and just their past trauma. They have some shared trauma they can bond
Yeah,
over.
trauma bonding. We didn't get
They're
enough trauma
they're
bonding on his field trip with Zuko in season
I was
3.
gonna say, I'm excited for their field trip, but I also remember being a little underwhelmed by it.
Yeah, because they just have a good time. Like, no, you guys got to go to therapy together. Join group therapy time. I don't know where you're gonna find it. I guess the Sun Warriors are the therapists, but
I don't know if anyone's trained in that kind of therapy.
no. Well,
at this point. Yeah, and so I just, and we see the parallels with next episode as well, but that really stands out to me as just kind of tying the two main perspectives of the show together here. I think works really well, seeing both of their backstories. And how they're responding now, and how Aang's going to try to move forward, and Zuko in his own way is maybe stepping forward in a little bit of a different direction as he starts to show more caring for his crew and stuff. So I think that's all really good. So Ali mentioned Katara's role in the episode and I do like the supporting Aang, and I will say, did piss me off a little bit that Katara is pretty sidelined here. She's only in relation to Aang again, which is the second Ihaz episode in a row where Katara is like very sidelined and support. And I guess I'll introduce this now just because this maybe colored my viewing of the episode a little bit too wide, and slightly didn't love it as much as before. But so I'll introduce Aaron Ehaz as a figure here and start to tell that story, and there'll be more on him later for sure. But this is the head writer of Avatar, kind of third in line in importance. He's kind of listed prominently in the credits. Very interestingly, he gets the head writer credit in every single episode, which I have not seen from any other show. That like the head writer is right up along the writer of the actual episode. And also really weird is that Mike is credited as the story editor, which means head writer for most television shows, I think. And there's like kind of have two head writers. There's Mike and Aaron. But anyway, I think the context is like, I feel like I really looked up to him back in the day, and we really loved Ihaz's episodes, as I think everyone does. I think he's a great writer, and I still think that now that he's a great writer. I think that we really embraced his perspective, let's say. And so I love the Ihaz episodes as maybe preconditioned to like anything that he was doing. And so but there's additional context now, which is, so he works in the video game industry for a little bit, but then he goes on to co-create the Dragon Prince, which is a pretty good show. But then in around the time of season 3 of Dragon Prince, you can go, and I would recommend listening to the beginning of the Dragon Prince season 3 overly animated podcast with Ali and I. And so I kind of go over there the allegations against Aaron Ehaz, which he is alleged to have some like workplace abusive practices. Nothing so extreme when you hear allegations, but allegedly not treating his female workers the best, that sort of thing. So that really, and I think I go over it in that podcast, like I looked up to this guy, and it seems like might be not that great of a guy. That really upset me. And, Colors, I think this rewatch to some extent, I see Katara being sidelined in 2 episodes, and after hearing these other things, and I'm like, does he not write female characters the best? I think that's going to be something interesting to track. On the other hand, he's the one who suggests Toph should be a girl. That's very notable as well. I think there's definitely other side to the story, but I think that's just some context that's kind of coloring my viewing here. I'm not, jury's still out. I think there'll be some much better written stuff from Aaron in terms of female characters moving forward, but wanted to bring that context in for sure.
I'm just what would I definitely, I mean, I would agree with you. I didn't think about like the fact that like Katara was, I guess, sidelined, but I'm wondering what would we even have her do in that episode if she wasn't doing what she did do.
No, yeah, and like it's the type of thing where if you just view the storm in isolation, it's like it's a perfectly understandable move.
Yeah, I'm just like I guess she could relate it to her like being like the last Southern waterbender, like her tribe being raided by the Fire Nation, but it kind of
she has her own past trauma stuff.
I wonder if like
Katara was a main character, then I think that could have been.
But also it would be like this isn't like a contest. Like you don't need to like compare everything to like your experiences. Just like let me get out what I need to get out. But like I get like I could work. It would just be
at the time, and I think still now I viewed it as like a nice Katang episode of Katara.
I did too,
and I think it still is. I'm not judging the storm on its own. I'm trying to I'm just trying to explain the context.
No, yeah, I think you have a really good point there. It's just I don't even know like what could have been done better. Do you remember what they did in the Netflix adaptation for this? Did Katara do anything?
They didn't have the same framing.
I guess,
storm,
so
they kind of changed that whole thing.
Because like the storm was happening while Sokka and Katara were in the spirit world and the like Fog of Lost Souls or something. I don't remember.
We're talking too much about Netflix, but
they did some stuff well. So like,
I will say, having compared to the way they did it, the whole context of the storm and the mood and the setting the tone and the emotions behind it, I think are pretty essential to the way they present these 2 backstories on their own. Because for the most part, you don't want to do like a full backstory episode and have like these 2 dueling, but it's kind of boring maybe. But the framing and the context which they do it, I think makes it really work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then we had a whole discussion on Katara's character at the beginning of last podcast, so I won't go into that again. But this is another episode where her role in the show swings wildly, so it's pretty interesting to track early in the show. Any other thoughts on the storm?
Soundtrack is gorgeous. A lot of good pieces in this episode.
The fishermen are fun. Yeah, I'll say that. Not like super notable.
I was having a conversation with my friend the other day. This is like, it's related to Avatar. Segue. I didn't used to like watermelon because I didn't know how to pick them. And partly because this woman at the beginning.
Mean, like you didn't know how to pick them at the grocery store?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The swooshing means it's right.
And for watermelon, that's not true. But that is, I think, how my family always picked it. Like if it's like a little hollow and it makes like a swishing sound. It's the red juices swishing around. It's this episode.
It's this episode.
Okay.
So she's a liar.
You get the impression
she was lying.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what
at 13. I don't think we knew.
I didn't know like how to get. I didn't know how to haggle. I didn't know what being swindled was, so I believed her.
Swindled.
So
I didn't even know the concept.
She is a liar.
I'd never been swindled up until that point in my life.
I was swindled by a cartoon.
Yeah, because you didn't even get the Santa thing. That was like the first swindling for kids.
The what thing?
Santa.
Oh yeah, no.
So you were never swindled.
Yeah, we're not lied to in our childhoods.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You never were swindled.
But I still demanded Christmas tree. Because all the kids
is that the first? Well, there's the Tooth Fairy too. Is that the first swindle?
Yeah, no, I think
I feel like Santa's more devastating than the Tooth Fairy, though.
For sure. But I don't know. You get money from the Tooth Fairy, so it's like.
Okay. Anyway, let's if we got nothing else, let's go to the Blue Spirit here. I was like, is
the second swindling the Blue Spirit?
Zhao really gets swindled here. My man Zhao gets own gold. He had the Avatar. Like,
When he has to go out there and tell them the Avatar escaped after that like speech, I'm like, don't you feel a little bit embarrassed, man?
that's
No,
what's
he's
great
all
about
about
him.
business. He gets it
Yeah,
done.
he doesn't care. I mean, I'm sure he cares, but like, he's
He's
moving
focused
forward.
on he's very much 9 to 5. Gotta make my
Probably,
living.
yeah, more than never goes home to his
Yeah.
Yeah, this
family
guy's
or
a
Five to
what
nine,
we've
workaholic.
invented.
actually.
Yeah.
5 to 9 like at night and the next day. So like
Yeah.
a 36-hour day.
Exactly, yeah.
36.
Yeah.
So he gets promoted to admiral. We see his second promotion. I mean, we off screen the first promotion, but I love that scene. And the other guy's like, "Yep, I guess you get to do what you want now."
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
because
gonna
he's about to
I'm not
like
gonna ask to see that letter. I'm not gonna question, you know.
Yeah, the other guy's just like, "Yep, I believe it." I mean, I guess that's how it worked at those times. You get a letter, it's facts. No one thought to swindle anyone.
also honor code. Maybe like nothing was written on the piece of paper and he was
That's what I'm
just
saying. Nobody questioned. He's just like, oh well, look at that. It looks like I'm an like right after you told me I wasn't allowed to do something. It looks like I'm an
Yeah.
admiral.
Yeah. No, definitely some concise storytelling is the nice way to put it here from a lot of these scenes. As we, Avatar at the short runtime needs to be concise a lot. The Yu Yan Archers, we get them here.
Yeah, maybe you guys want to pick up the Yang Chen books.
They in
More on
there?
the Yu Yan Archer back. Do the Yu Yan Archers come back in Avatar?
Yeah, in don't they? Do they come back in
I feel like
Korra?
they
Did I
come
make that
back.
up?
In Korra?
I
No.
think I made that up.
I feel like they come
Do
back
they
like
come back?
once.
Are they part of the invasion
We
force?
like we
I
see
No.
them in the
not.
background
They're on the
somewhere.
fire
I
station.
swear to
Oh,
God,
maybe they
come back.
are.
We'll look out for it.
Yeah.
You don't need to fact check us by the way, guys. We're
Curious.
rewatching the episodes.
I'm
We're
googling it,
rediscovering
so
this
let's
stuff.
see where else they.
Anyway, pick
Oh
these
no,
up
they
at your
only
local
appeared in
bookstore.
the Blue Spirit.
Only in this episode.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool guys to only appear.
Maybe you
So
want to pick these up somewhere.
Yep. Some in the Yang Chen books. Yeah. Okay. I'm more interested in that, I guess.
It's interesting.
But that's about the Air Nation. These are some Fire Nation.
Oh, I guess
archers,
they
right?
show up in the
Are you on the Avatar
The
wiki
invasion?
yet?
they show up in the search too.
Oh, in Korra.
In
Oh,
No,
in
the
the
comics,
book,
right?
the
Yeah.
books, the comics.
because
Yeah,
Ozai
Okay.
hires them to murk.
Oh, interesting. Anyway, they're very competent because they immediately capture Aang, where Zuko has been going for 13 episodes.
I know
and-
Dante's also been. I think Dante said on like the Avatar podcast, it's like you just need arrows and a net to catch the Avatar because like the pirates caught Aang with a net in
Yeah,
the
that is
waterbending
true.
scroll.
They do get him with the net. I do think the scene makes clear that Aang probably wouldn't have been captured unless he needed the frogs and was trying to do two things at once. So I think that context.
Oh wait,
is,
and Korra also the Airbender episode. Don't like the bounty hunters use nets against the Airbenders.
Listen, you're not getting out of a net.
Their weakness
you would
is
think you
nets.
could blow it away.
Yeah, but no,
But
No, because it's got a bunch of holes in it.
that's true.
Interesting aerodynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, they get Aang. Katsak and Katara are sick. So this of note. This episode is very serialized after the storm because Katara and Sokka are sick from the storm, and we mentioned stuff about the storm, and it's kind of a follow up. So we've talked about early Avatar not like the most serialized yet, as in like one episode going right into another one. But this is a functional two-parter, so it really does go right into it.
I am into the like ruins that they're
yeah.
chilling in. Like I always
That's
found
very
that very interesting. Like it's like this. It looks like this whole like city or something that they're just like
Yeah, I wonder what it is.
this ruined city.
It is the Earth Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
By the way, the experience of watching Avatar is they go to a place and it doesn't have a name in the show, and
It does.
But if you go to the Avatar wiki, it's like, oh,
Is
here's
it
a
called
name.
something? Are you
The
is it-
ruins of Taku, a largely abandoned city located on the shores of the United Republic of Nations, formerly
Oh.
the Northwestern Earth Kingdom.
Right. So we're visiting all these towns,
Sure.
and it's like they all have names, but the episode does not name them. So we can bring this in. There's something called, what was it, Avatar Facts, or what was the pop-up?
Oh yeah, the Avatar
little-
extras.
Avatar extras. So they re-aired the episodes on Nicktoons channel, and they added these little pop-ups with additional facts. I believe John O'Brien, I might wrote those, one of the writers, and they're canon. But like they wrote them after the fact, so that it was like an additional task for the crew. Like after that episodes aired or after that they were originally written, they came up with these additional facts to air and these reshowing of the episodes. So some of these town names are from the Avatar.
I just
extras
realized
as
these
well.
are also, it's really embellished in the novel what this place is all about in the Yang Cheng
I would think
novels.
I would think so. Yeah, this
These,
seems like a
these
good place to
ruins,
get
is
into.
that they're in
Mhm.
the
Well,
novel?
like the city that the ruins are in.
Huh.
It was a bustling city during Yang Chen's time.
I think I was anti-Avatar extras at the time. I was like, these are
Why?
I think you
dumb.
got
I think
mad because of the Zutara extra.
did
You're
they bring
like,
up
this,
Zutara?
I
this
think
is
they
a
did.
sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they say in the Avatar extras that they were
It's like
originally
the waterbending
considering
scroll.
Zutara or
I think it was
whatever.
during the
Oh,
waterbending scroll extra.
yeah.
And you were like, no,
They're
they're
being.
jokes.
I mean, a lot of them are
A lot of them
jokes.
are
Yeah,
jokes. That pissed
they're
me off, so I
yeah.
understand. But I'm
So
always
those
a
that was
fan of
another.
Listen, that
lore
little Avatar extra
expansion.
though really fed
Oh
it
my
fed a lot
god.
of people.
We should have brought that up
So
on
did
the
the
Zutara
so why do you
discussion.
like the chibi specials? Because that like fanned the Zutara flames.
I am neutral on chibi specials.
Don't you love them? I thought you were all about the chibi
No.
But you like
specials.
them.
No, Jeff wants to talk about them. He brought them up, so we'll maybe talk. I maybe I loved it. Actually, I
You
don't
did
know.
love them back in the day for sure.
I can't remember all my opinions. Okay, like
Yeah, we're here
I
to
try
fact
be
check you on your
consistent.
opinions.
Look, please do. Some people are listening.
According
from
to
Spirit Worlds.
episode 50 of From the Spirit World,
You should tell me what I thought in the past. I'd be interested.
Oh,
There's a few
Lord.
things that I can remember. I feel like I do remember you liking those specials.
Okay, Chibi.
You
I think I
definitely
probably because they're all like shipping.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
But
you
it's
liked them
like
because they were
Zutara
shipping,
shipping.
and you liked the art style. You thought it
It
was
was cute.
Okay, interesting.
But the
I think it's
Zutara
cute.
really pissed
But
me
it
off.
was
And
very Zutara. Like Chibi Katara was really into Zuko.
Oh my god.
she was into
Oh
like
my
the
gosh.
mysterious type of the blue spirit,
Oh yeah, she was into the blue spirit and
who is Zuko.
Zuko.
So it's like
So that's what
stupid.
relates to this. Yeah, they could have. Then they didn't go. If this was the type of show we were describing last podcast, the Zutara alternate universe, where Katara is the heroine and she has like dark Katara arc, then
Oh, I
like,
should
the
listen
blue
to that.
spirit,
Oh, yeah.
the blue spirit alter ego would play into.
we'll
it
see
for
how you
sure.
feel about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I always like if an AU is done well, and I
I
feel
think
like
there's
with
a
Zutara,
version
it's
of
not
that
really
story
done
that would be good. We pitched
Yeah.
it to ourselves almost as a love triangle.
well,
Yeah.
which I'm about sometimes.
It's just not this show,
Yeah,
right?
it's a different
and I think
show.
the fact that Katara's sick with Sokka and not part of the mysterious Zuko is another. This isn't what they're doing. Speaking of the town names, I just want to
If she
mention the
met
Jet
the
Town.
blue spirit, she would have been like,
That
"Oh,
would
another
be-
man to like, because every single appropriate
have to
every
ship
single
it, yeah.
cool guy,
Haru,
somewhat
Jet.
her age. Yeah,
Blue spirit.
Anyway,
Zuko maybe for a second, but not really. She didn't really have a reaction to him in the waterbending.
Go jump in the
Yeah.
river. That was a reaction.
We talked about the Jet Town last podcast, and it was stressing me out that I was like, was I wrong that this was all Fire Nation colony? It wasn't actually an Earth Kingdom town. And I get really nervous about being wrong about those things. So I
relatable.
looked on the Avatar wiki, and it is not clear. So I don't think I was wrong. I think it is the main point is the episode needed more context to make So anyway, there's not context. It probably was actually an Earth Kingdom town. I don't know if there are actual Earth Kingdom citizens in the town. Anyway, so we'll see if people try to fact check me on that. I don't know. But Mel brought it up. It might be all Earth Firebenders. So
my understanding is that it was a firebender colony.
it
The
says,
Avatar Wiki,
yeah,
the Avatar Wiki says it's like an
somewhere
Earth
within the Earth
town.
Kingdom, Fire Nation soldiers camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a colony.
It doesn't say that explicitly though, right?
But
so it's
I
interesting.
think it's implied, especially because like when the town is flooded, you see Fire Nation soldiers, but everybody else is dressed up in Earth Kingdom garb, I think.
right. So colony being if it was filled with Fire Nation citizens.
I think there
I
was like a
see.
mixture.
I think so, yeah.
It might have been a mixture. Anyway, the episode does not make it clear, so it's kind of like a moot discussion. I'm interested in revisiting it when we bring up Jet, if we get any more context to Jet as a character from that. Okay, but anyway, if you're like, why aren't you talking about these town names? Like, they don't say it in the episode. We're watching the episodes, okay?
But if you read the books,
I will say, when we were fans, did they say all the town? Did we talk about these towns by names? No, I don't think so. Really, like
Was the
it was
town
just
in the
like,
Fortuneteller ever named?
probably.
I
every
just
town
watched this
probably has a
episode. I
name.
can't remember.
They definitely don't say
they,
it.
They don't. They never say any names except for
Ba Sing Se.
the two big cities, and yeah, no,
Ba Sing
they
Se is
never
the
say
only
names.
city in the Earth Kingdom. Everywhere else is just a collection of houses.
Which I think, and even the Southern Water Tribe does not have a name in the
Wolf.
show.
What are
until,
they in Korra? They call
Wolf
it
Cove.
Wolf Cove.
No, that's in the Avatar show, the Netflix
Oh,
show.
it's in the Netflix show. I
Isn't
totally
that
mixed it
also?
up.
I think it's in the novels as well.
They put it originally from the novels. Yeah, it's part of the canon now. Okay.
They took it from the novels, put it in the Netflix adaptation.
Other things from Blue Spirit. So Sock and Guitar are sick. They need the frogs. Let's talk about the herbalist.
Wait, they do say Makapu Village. I remember.
Oh, they do. No, they say Mount Makapu. That they don't necessarily say that that's the
Doesn't that
village name.
imply that?
You would think
not.
so. You would think so. They do actually say a name of something in here. Mount Makapu.
Grey Delisle voices the herbalist, right?
I think no,
Does
I
she?
think I do not think so. I looked at the credits.
sounds like
but
her.
Wait, actually no, she might have.
I don't think
may
it
have looked at the
is.
Fortuneteller credits. Ali, let's look at the Avatar wiki. It does
It's the
sound
Blue
like her,
Spirit
for sure.
credits. She's in
Yeah.
the Blue Spirit. Hold on. No, the herbalist is Jodie Carlisle.
Huh.
Yeah, not
She's
okay.
doing her
know who
best
that
Grey
is.
Delisle.
It really sounds like her, yeah. And Miyuki, her cat,
Incredible.
which
Fire
I don't know
Nation criminal.
I don't know if we ever knew this, but if you look at the credits, there is Miyuki Hoshikawa, who's a storyboard artist on like most of Avatar.
They named the cat after them.
It's definitely named after her, Miyuki.
Yeah.
He's
so
wanted by the
I didn't
Fire
know
Nation.
I love it. So good.
I love the herbalist and Miyuki. I forgot that they are in like 1, maybe 2 minute scene, probably less, and they don't come back here. I guess they come back in a later episode.
It's in Bato, I think.
Oh, is it right after? Wow.
When is Bato? It's like I don't remember.
Bato's a couple.
It's a little bit
episodes
after this.
Bato's the next episode.
Is
The
it?
Fortune Teller's the next episode.
No,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
After this podcast, this is the next
What
episode.
did you watch?
Okay. Yeah, so we'll see when they come back. But I remember the scene being longer because I loved Herbalist and Miyuki. I always thought they're funny.
Well, we're gonna talk about this if we get to season 2. The whole scene where they're in Bossing Sand, they're like, "What do you mean bear?" But like cats exist, so why
There's
is
a
a
cat
bear
here.
so strange?
I guess there's just
Yeah.
not bears.
Let's
Except for the
come
walls.
back to this in a second for the Fortune Teller. Sak and Katara's sake. How did this play for you humor wise? Because it's kind of like a very silly offset to the very serious rest of the Blue Spirit part, and the frogs also pop up after they thaw out in the fortress.
I thought it was a good balance, and I liked especially like the Momo thing they had going
I love
on.
Momo just bringing them all that like.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Like the
Momo
way that
definitely
like
being
she's
a
speaking
cat.
English to him, but all he hears is
Mhm.
It's like Animal Crossing.
I actually think it was handled pretty well because it's like this deathly serious stuff with Aang, and then it's like meanwhile, and they don't like it's just the right amount.
Yeah.
Like it's,
I don't think it's too much. And I think the frog actually, when they cut to the frogs in the fortress, I actually think it's pretty funny each time. Like it's a nice little.
Oh
bit.
yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of like that. The only thing is that we end the episode on like them spitting out the frogs.
That, yeah,
I'm like a little you know. But I feel like I originally maybe thought this was too silly, but I think it's fine here. That's part of why I think it's like part of why the episode hits for me so much. Aang gets captured by the archers. I think is like a beautiful sequence.
Music
and then,
is also a banger.
of note, very extremely quick transition. He's instantly locked up in the fortress, like
It's nearby.
presumably many hours later.
That's true. Is it
close.
close?
Yeah, and then we go. Zuko, Zhao talking to Aang. I'll keep you alive, just barely. Great
Stronghold
line.
has a name
Dark.
too. God.
Yeah, well, they say that in the Netflix show. It's the
Yeah.
Stronghold. Yeah, everything has a name, but not in the show. And then Zhao. We mentioned Zhao's speech, and he's going to send it to the Fire Lord.
They take it from the Yang Chen novel. It's not from the Netflix show. It's from the novels. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Nothing is from the like it's.
It is. They
it's-
mentioned it in
it's
the novels
unified.
first.
Like they have the Avatar.
No, but the novels came out
studios.
before the adaptation.
They have the Avatar Studios lore department now, so they're purposefully putting things in
Whatever.
the novel and in the show, and like they're purposefully doing that. It's possible like the writer made it up and then they incorporated it, but I don't know. I don't know the timeline.
I think the
Zhao,
books came out first.
some good. Yeah. Well, sure. Just good stuff with Zhao sending the speech to the Fire Lord, and then we get the scene of the Blue Spirit freeing Aang and all the stuff, you know.
Which the setup for this is that Zuko's ship gets like boarded for like no reason. They like show up and they're like, "Do you have information about the Avatar?"
Oh yeah, like
And he's
for
like, "Get off my ship."
Yeah, and Zuko's upset over Zhao, and he kind of specifically says that.
what's
but-
his title
Admiral.
now? Zhao.
Admiral.
Admiral?
So out as Admiral. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah,
That's
because
his
Iroh's like,
forever
oh,
title.
good for him. He got a promotion.
Any thoughts on the escape sequence from the fortress?
Very well done.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
don't
I was
know.
trying to. The thing I remember most is them on. I remember those like little like siege ladders that they like
Hmm.
walk up the wall
Yes.
with, and then like them escaping with them being very cool.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
And the
I,
music also was very incredible.
I mentioned in last podcast I only saw Aang waterbend once since Bato, at least through the fortune teller. It is in this episode. I think he does a nice wall to stop some arrows here. Which is like, when did you learn this? But I guess he's a quick
He
learner.
did waterbending in the storm, didn't
Does he waterbend in the
he? Yeah,
storm?
doesn't he break like the mast of the ship is falling down or whatever, and he splits
Oh
it
yeah,
in
he does
half
waterbend. Yeah.
Okay.
with water?
Stand
Yeah.
corrected. Stand corrected then. But yeah, this whole scene, and again, the Netflix show really just copied this, but it's so good. It's really incredible. And then Zuko takes Aang hostage, and then the Yuyan Archer knocks him out, and then we get the Zuko face reveal from the Blue
The
Spirit
Union Archer, like that mask must be made out of something.
to stop
Yeah,
it.
it
True.
hit him right in
Yeah.
the face.
What are
I,
those
I
typically made out of? Like not
Ceramic,
glass.
porcelain.
Yeah.
probably would not stop the arrow, but I mean, he's knocked out, so. And then Aang brings up the storm, and Aang chooses to escape with him. So some interesting, all really interesting stuff. And Aang seeing Zuko, it's all really great. Incorporating the archers, Zhao choosing to let them escape. It's like there's a lot of story beats within the kind of bigger action sequence. I really like how that's done. And then in the forest, Aang with Zuko. It talks about his friend Kuzan. Do you think we could have been friends back then too? And then Zuko answers with an attack. It's like, I guess not. But I love that moment too.
Yeah. It's one of the
Punctuating.
best ones. And it's still used a lot in AMVs.
Yeah.
It is. Or
No,
like,
I
what do they call it
believe
now?
you.
Fan cams.
Is this the setup to the future Aang Zuko friendship?
It's not, yes. Yeah. Sorry, I
100%.
thought you were gonna
Yeah.
bring up shipping.
That too.
Is this the first Zook Aang scene?
No. Well, yes, but no.
Yeah. That's what.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much there's to discuss, but from Blue Spirit, but it just great.
It's
great
very
stuff.
action oriented and stuff.
Yeah, and stuff. Yep,
Stuff.
exactly.
Do you
Yeah,
think?
like I said,
Do you think Zhao knew right away that it was Zuko? Like, do you think he was like this? Like,
No, because
Unclear, yeah.
later on, doesn't he like see the swords in the ship
yeah, I
and then
guess he
he
does.
puts it
He
together?
does kind of have a
realizes
shocked
it later.
face
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Might have maybe he had the suspicion, but as far as we know, no. Yeah, great Zhao episode. Great stuff with Zuko at the end. Yeah. I don't know, just all played together super well for me. Anything else I had written down from this? Anything else from you guys on the Blue Spirit?
I don't think so.
The cat. The
Talk
cats
about
are
the cat.
normal.
Talk about the
Miyuki,
cat.
yes.
Cats are
Okay.
normal. Bear's normal.
Well, let's get into that now. So we get the platypus bear and the fortune teller.
I like
I
hybrid
thi-
animals.
I think here's my theory: the fortune teller is really when they started to commit to the
I was
hybrid.
gonna say the penguins were penguins too. They were just weird looking penguins.
They're just
Yeah.
like weird penguins. We do get like the rhinos that they ride on are like, I guess, like
Komodo
hybrid
rhinos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess they had some hybrids before, but there's definitely a lot
Well,
of
and, yeah, the
normal
parrot
animals.
lizard.
Yes. And then in the fortune teller, we specifically get a platypus bear, which they call out, and then they show it swimming. So it's like we're really showcasing the hybrid
Hatches an
animal.
egg as well.
Hatches an egg, yeah.
does.
And then we get the we also get like goose turkey, I think in
Which is the
fortune teller.
combination of the worst possible. Like,
The most mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like during this break they rebroke the writers' room and they're like, we're doing a hybrid animals only now.
I think they're great. I think we need more hybrid animals. I think I would like everyone to just make up their own kind of hybrid animal because they're really cool.
Turtle ducks coming up
Turtle
eventually.
ducks coming
Very
up,
cute.
yeah.
Mhm.
Iconic
Very
one.
cute.
Yeah. So I do like the platypus bear and the fortune teller. Okay. Katang time.
I mean,
I already
on.
basically recapped the episode in the beginning with the fortune teller, but oh my gosh, this scene is just like so extra. Like this Avatar is not like super overtly romantic, and then this scene is just
Which
like,
is why this whole episode is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
it,
little
it
bit.
is. And it's like it's very over the top, as I wrote down. Like
Like this is what they
I
came
think
back from break on.
they're like we just had these heavy episodes. We need a offset, and this is what they came up with. I think it's very effective. I could see if people are less into it, but I think it's over the top in like an extremely funny way. Uh, yeah, just I don't know, just Ali fandom memories of like this Aang making Katara the necklace,
Oh
and then
yeah.
just like the romantic vision. Like this
Yeah.
is it might be the most played scene of television. Also, the Cave of Two Lovers kiss
I
to
don't know
analyze it,
if
which we'll get
would
to.
not say it's the most played scene of television,
For
but
me,
like
For
for me,
Dylan.
okay,
like
for you, sure.
like
I mean, I remember it very vividly, even before rewatching or anything. And someone again, I saw online they were comparing it to it's season 3 when they're like getting in their Fire Nation garb, and she does it again. Like, how do I look?
Oh
And it's
yeah, you
like
yeah.
sent
Toph is
that to
blind,
us.
Sokka's your brother. Why are you like you're just asking Aang for a
Yeah.
reason?
Well,
Like,
they're also like doing this thing with the sparkly vision, so it's like this whole arc
yeah,
with
and the
Qatar origin.
music, like the
Qatar
heavenly,
originally
like
sees Jet with the sparkly vision,
that's true.
and then in this episode, Meng sees Aang with the sparkly vision as a great gag, and he's just like,
He's just slouching over.
yeah, uh,
That's very funny.
they're really playing with that. But I don't know, just this opening scene, like, oh
It's
my gosh,
cute, and like the friend zoning still is like, why? It's
the,
Well,
funny,
because
but
they were friends first.
yeah,
just a cute little guy, just like Momo. Oh my
yeah.
gosh,
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
like a
guess that
little
was kind of
hunky.
like.
It was harsh calling him like a little lemur.
it plays into the rest of the over the topness of the
Yeah.
He's
episode, you
just a
know.
sweet little guy like Momo.
I think it's you know, had Katara not considered Aang as any sort of romantic interest before this, I think that's maybe a stretch given some of the stuff we'd seen previously. But I think the episode wants to emphasize maybe a turning point, so they start off with
Yeah, I'd say this is the turning point.
yeah, and
Do you think during
I
that summer break when they were like, okay, we're gonna go to town
maybe
on
they
some things?
plan out Katang
Yeah, they were
more.
like, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I think maybe. So of note, we get new staff writers in this episode. This is the first credits. You'll see Tim Hedrick and Elizabeth Welsh on the so two very prominent writers for Avatar. Their first time in the credits. So you know, Tim Hedrick, big figure in Avatar. So this is you know he shows up between that kind of break here. And Ian Wilcox and some of those other ones are not on the show anymore after. So we get this. I do think we get somewhat of a writing transition. So it'll be interesting to track how much that plays moving forward. But yeah, I just don't know how to explain the just visceral reaction I had to the scene and how like I cannot be unbiased. Even I thought maybe almost 20 years later I would be able to see this from a new light, but no, this is too ingrained into my soul of
I mean, I feel the same way, but I wouldn't say I had like a visceral reaction. I'm just like, I love them so
I
much.
remember it being the only thing that was there for a really long time, like in terms of
is
like shipping stuff.
this was
Hmm.
like the scene we went to, yeah, like in this
Yeah.
episode. But like, I feel like I didn't remember so much that it's the first episode of scene of the episode.
And I will say, like going into this, I was thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, like this is the big thing because at the end of it, she's like, oh, I suppose he is with like
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing. But like, I do think the entire episode, like specifically the cloud bending stuff and that sort of thing, actually was like more overtly romantic than I
Yeah.
remembered, which kind of surprised me because in my mind it
Yeah.
was just that last scene. But
Yeah, and this opening scene, but the cloud bending and Aang's, you know, the whole point is Aang's crushing on Katara the whole time, and Meng is, you know, so we'll get to that. But yeah, we get the Aang, all of you are just your neck because both look great. We get Sokka. I mentioned this before. Sokka, smoochy, someone's in love, which you would think he would. I think we've talked about like why isn't he making a bigger deal of this? But as we've been discussing in the series, Sokka frequently tries to tease Katara about guys, so
Hmm.
it might not be a big deal to him.
Except for Jet somehow, because he doesn't trust him.
well,
But
he
Jetty
says your
even just was
boyfriend,
like,
and
yeah, your
yeah,
boyfriend
yeah. So
pisses
he
me
really
off.
like calls out
it's
anyone
true.
with
That's
Katara.
true.
So it's not necessarily a big deal. Sokka, by the way, is like the fish is taunting me, like very over the top Sokka fish stuff here.
I do
Um,
appreciate that. I don't think we ever get a moment where Sokka's like to anyone like, yeah, you can't date my sister, like because
mhm.
Aang even says like later in the episode, he's like, oh, you're okay with it, and
Yeah,
Sokka's
yeah.
like, obviously they're talking about different people, but like the fact that Aang's like, oh, you're cool with it, and it's like even if they
Hmm.
were talking about the same thing, I don't think Sokka would care.
Ultimately, I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice. He's already come a long way.
Feminist Sokka.
Feminist
well, he says
Sokka. His sister can be whatever kind of floozy she wants to be. Every single guy she comes
God.
across.
Oh my god, floozy. Yeah. Oh wait, and by the way, smoochy, someone's love, and Aang's like, well, like, oh my.
Yeah,
god.
he didn't deny it.
I was thinking, I was like, wow, dang, Aang's so much braver than I would be. Like, he's immediately ready to say to Katara,
Yeah.
like, hey, like, I like you, or whatever. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, he's about to confess too. Yeah, no, he is really going for it here.
Good for him.
I
Shoot
think
your
he's-
shot,
Aang's
man.
al-
Yeah.
Aang always been, I think, pretty confident in for the and he's a great bender from an early age, and then told he's the Avatar. I think there's a lot of reason to be confident. I guess he's propped up by everyone around him, but yeah, I think it fits with him. But yeah, anyway, this opening scene, we get to the Aunt Wu stuff, the fortune telling. Any thoughts on just the village being dependent on fortune telling? It is a companion to Jet in another like Sokka's right, everyone's wrong type of episode. But I think it works because it lets Sokka be the straight man to all the villagers, which I
I
think
thought
is
it was
very
funny.
good.
Especially,
Yeah.
can your science explain why it rains?
Yes.
Yes.
It can.
Yes, that's good. And like what I appreciated, there's one line when to Aang, and Aang's like, well, Sokka's like, but they're wrong, and Aang's like, well, if they're like having fun with it, if it makes them happy, so I like that they put that in there. Like, yes, he's maybe technically right, but he's not necessarily emotionally right,
Yeah. But then it
So
does wind up hurting them.
Well,
yes,
and I do.
of course, there's to an extent.
I do kind of appreciate at the end, they play with this twice specifically. The guy with the red shoes, but also like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like, well, she said it wouldn't happen and it didn't, and it's like, I can't argue with you. But they play with that, earlier with the guy with the red shoes, where it's like, oh yeah, if you're always wearing them, it's obviously gonna happen, and.
It's pretty funny stuff. So then we get to Meng. Meng sparkly vision with Aang, pretty big ears, don't ya? Does this episode really, the first half, just firing on all cylinders comedy wise for me. Because I want to note the bean curd puffs. Good.
I think that's in the Avatar cookbook, the recipe.
Okay.
I'm curious to try to make
There's
it.
a place by me that
good
sells
tofu
like
snack.
bean
It
curd
sounds
pie
really good.
or something like that.
You would think Aang would eat it, but he wasn't in the mood.
He was too focused on shooting his shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't eat at a time like that. You got butterflies in your stomach.
Meng going right for Aang. I wrote to Aang x Meng forever. I was loving it.
What's their ship name? She said Aang rhymes with Mang. So like,
it's just Meng. It's just Meng's name, but
Meng.
what you don't know is the N and G actually is coming from Aang's name.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I loved
Brilliant.
it. I was loving it. I do think there's something like very deeply relatable, even if it's like a very like young straight kid type of way of just
unrequited love is universal.
And then them liking someone else, and also like the chain of
well,
like,
yeah, and it's like the
stuff.
chain
I
of
thought it was
like,
presented very well.
Because I felt like Meng was supposed to be a little bit younger than Aang. Aang's a little bit younger than Katara, so it's like, oh yeah, like the older kid
always like the older person,
going for the older person.
I think it rings really true to like a young teenager, even younger experience that
for sure.
we're getting into here. Aang overhearing Katara's a powerful bender, and then celebrates. Someone had a pretty good bathroom break. I thought it was great. Speaking of Katara's role in this episode, she's obsessed with the fortune telling. It should be noted this episode's co-written Aaron Ehas, John O'Brien. So speaking of female characters in Aaron's episode, so Katara's much more prominent here, although very kind of single-minded and a singular role that is more traditionally female. But she does have that in other episodes as well.
Yeah,
so
I've been really trying to like you I think I can't remember when you asked this, but you were like, is it that it's sexist or that it's bad, or is it just that like they're not very good at writing it? Because I do think she's a straight teenage girl. Like obviously she's seeing all these guys for the first time. She has reactions to that. Like you go to the fortune teller and like she didn't ask. The fortune teller was like, oh yeah, like I see the man you're going to marry, and she's like like okay, like let's hear it. Now that being said, the fact that Aang's Fortune is like he's locked in a great cataclysmic battle against good and evil, and like the crux of Katara's future is like, here's the guy you're gonna marry, and then that's all she wants to know about after that, right? Like she
Yeah.
wants
I
to know
don't
about
think
her
it is though. She's
kids.
like, she's also like, should I eat a mango or
Well,
papaya
yeah,
for
she gets
breakfast?
like
Like she
gets
gets
into it
the
in
trivial
general,
yeah,
stuff.
she gets sucked into it, but like when she comes back later and you know she's like
Yeah,
there for like
seem
an
to be
hour or
handsome.
whatever, and she's like, and then you have your third great grandchild before passing away in your sleep, and you know it's just
And
like
it's
And then
like
that
there's
winds up to not be true. So
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about that in a second. But it's like there's definitely something that rings true about the 14-year-old girl wanting to know more about that and her like liking boys. It rings very true. It's like what is the focus of the show and the largely male writers, you know. I think it's interesting to track that, you know, it's obviously to their credit there have been several prominent Katara non-traditionally female role episodes. It's just that we also get ones like this. So it's very much whiplash with her character arc. Partly it makes it that she's a very varied character. Partly it's maybe inconsistent characterization. I think it's
well, and
a thin
especially
line.
too if you compare it with like okay, when Sokka gets an episode, you know the stuff he gets tends to be forwarding his character in some way. In this regard, I wouldn't say this like does much for Katara's character or personality.
mm.
You know, like even like you know, you can say like, oh yeah, this is the first time she comes to see Aang as a potential romantic partner, but like, you know, is that the same as like, you know, Sokka learning to not treat women like crap, you know, like, you know, when other characters get episodes like that, it tends to like, you know, be something of substance as opposed to like Katara. And this is, you know, like she does get episodes like, you know, like imprisoned, very empowering.
Yeah.
As we said, like it's not true constantly, but it's just like she's the only one this seems to happen to when it does
Yeah, it's
happen.
interesting. Maybe you could argue in Jet, even though she's has a very romantically kind of inclined role in the story, she does like learn to be maybe less naive or less trusting. I think that's an interesting one, her role there. But yeah, I'm eager to get to the Northern Water Tribe with Katara. I'll say that. Certainly, I love her in this episode. I love Katang, but and I'm interested to track. Will this kind of get better as the show goes on too? So it's definitely some interesting stuff with her. Talk about the third great grandchild before quietly passing away in her sleep. So Allie, this does not
Sorry, it
check
was
out.
great grandchild. I missed
Yeah.
that.
So does this not happen?
We're only on the grandchildren with Cora, so I made
And they're
that. That's
all
my bad.
well, they're all pretty young too. How old?
And she's already pretty
She's pretty
old.
old, right?
Well, I guess she died. She hasn't died yet as of
But
yet.
like, I
Or
No,
mean,
did
she's
did she
Kyoshi
gonna
die
lived
in
until
Korra?
she was
Did
200.
Katara die in Korra, or did I just think she
No!
would?
I think
I was
we
theorizing.
just thought
I think
she
I was
would.
theorizing she
Yeah.
would die. Yeah.
No, she's very much alive. I mean, we don't hear about her.
So we don't know if this has happened yet, but it's not going to be
She
true unless
could
she lives a
live
long
for
time.
a long time because Kyoshi lived for a long time,
She
but
could
who
live
knows if
like
that's like the
biblical
Avatar
ages,
spirit.
you know, like
Yeah.
Book of
She's
Genesis
a biblical
ages.
figure, so
Yeah,
we'll see.
she lived
900
for a very long
years.
time.
So I guess this is
Amazing.
still to be determined if they hold
Katara,
true to
1
this
million
prediction.
years.
This was a big thing though. This was like fanfics like always stuck true to like Aunt Wu said it, so this is canon. Like all like this is like
People
always
have
that's-
like written fan fiction where she dies in her sleep after the third great
yeah, like
grandchild
it's
was born.
like people accepted this as fact in the Katang community. Like this is
So it's
completely
definitely
real.
Janora's kids, right? That's where we're going with this.
It
It would
must
have to
be.
Janora and Kai's kids. Are we
I
gonna?
mean, I guess Iki had something closer to. Well, I guess they both kind of had pseudo love interests, but
Yeah. Wait, who was Iki's?
well, not really. But she's dancing with that older guy, and more of a friendship.
Who?
One of Toph's grandchildren, I think.
Oh,
right?
one of the band.
At the end at the wedding.
Skrillex, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
one of
a-
the
Way
Bay
too old
Fong
for her.
twins.
Yeah, I know. But look, we're projecting into the future. Okay?
That's true. Yeah.
So excited for the Beifong family eventually when we get
I
there.
do love
Great.
And look, we got a lot of Taka analyzing to come in this
I'm
rewatch
still.
series.
I'm truther.
We have a lot of we got to figure out the truth here.
That's my most controversial opinion.
What else?
Okay,
we
but
got
if
over
that's
this?
the case, then that means her and Tenzin are related.
Ugh. All right.
I guess
well,
unless
no,
it's Sue.
not Lin. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Sue.
I guess Sue it could be. I guess we were
That's
assuming
my
Lin
truth.
was.
One.
We
As
know.
long as it's not
we know.
Lin.
We know it's not Lin. We get the dad's name from Toph, unless she's lying, but I kind of doubt that she would lie about that.
Yeah, I think we've had this exact discussion. Unless she's lying, I was like, okay, I feel like this we've been over this. But well, look, we're gonna get into all this again. Oh yeah, the Aang aloof stuff. Sokka's like, you gotta be aloof, maximum aloofness. I thought this is
It's
hilarious too, and
hilarious.
also like rings really true to like the type of
You
Juvenile, like
gotta
trying to get
treat
someone you
girls
like's
like crap
attention.
if you want them
yeah,
to
that
like
sort
Well,
of
not
thing. That was
even
at
you
the
have to like
time and still
pretend that
now.
they don't
you have to
Pretend to not
exist.
pretend
like
that they're
them.
crap to you.
Yeah. Is a
Come
very
on,
exaggerated form, and it's like Sokka's like to some extent being one of those like male influencers we talked about in the first podcast, but it's like you can tell it's in like a pretty harmless way. He's like, this is what I read and I really have no experience, so like this is what you should do.
Yeah.
He has been
Um,
getting. I mean, by the end of this, he gets the most action of anyone.
definitely definitely, yeah. Well,
This
I
makes
mean,
me think, like, did Hakoda teach him how to act this? Well, no, he wasn't really around.
yeah.
There were just
I
not really a lot of guys around
So
when
where would
after he was
Sokka pick this
13.
up? Maybe Sokka's talking to some of
Gran.
those children, maybe like around the Earth
She's
King
like, let
level.
me tell you, your grandfather, the first year I knew him, he didn't look at me once, and
He
it
didn't even call me the right
was
name on our
hot.
first 10 dates. Like, he
I thought
misgendered me. No, it's a little too far.
I thought Aang being aloof was so funny here. I think it's so good. And Sokka's advice to him. Sokka think he's talking about Meng too. It's all good
Yeah, they
stuff.
never converge on what they're both like. That's never resolved. Like
Katara
later
the
is
manga.
Sokka like, oh, how'd
Yeah.
things go with Meng? And Aang's like, what? Who?
No, they never get back on the same page. It's true. Mango or papaya. This also is something I remember very prominently.
I do think about
I
this
like.
every
I
time I see
hate
papaya.
Yeah,
Me
no,
too.
I don't like papaya in solidarity with Katara still.
I don't think I've ever
so.
had
I
papaya,
like
but mango is
dried.
Not a
superior
comment.
I like dried
always.
papaya, like candied papaya. Why am I putting an
But
S in it? I don't understand.
It's papaya.
But
mango is just the best, so always pick mango
Okay.
over anything.
mango's okay. I like mango flavored things,
Mango's great.
like mango water ice.
That sounds like that would be so nice right now.
Aang's like, that's okay. I'm busy with my own stuff to Katara.
And even the
Good.
duck comes up to him like, bro,
Yeah.
be honest with her.
The panda lily. I think that's handled well because we see it in the beginning, and then they try to go up to the panda lily, see the volcano. Yes.
Sorry. Stupid realization.
What?
Katang Yuri is real. Because it's a lily.
Why? Explain yourself. Your thought
Lily,
process here.
okay, so
Explain yourself.
the Japanese word for lily is Yuri, and the
Okay.
kanji is used in like sapphic Yuri context. So like
Yuri's
that's the whole thing.
the
So he's
erotica,
getting the
right?
Sapphic.
symbol of.
No, that's like hentai.
And the further context is that there's a Katang week coming up, and one of them is
One of the
Katang
prompts is Yuri.
gender
Listen,
bend.
I mean, I
Al's
also
been
talked about how
killing
Katang,
herself for Katang.
it's queer. I mean, like, I haven't gotten anything done. It's bad. But I said, I think on the first podcast I was on for this rewatch, Katang is very queer coded. I still stand by this. So
I think
Katang Yuri is real.
Aang is very non-traditional gender roles, gender.
And I think
potentially
Katara is too. I mean,
non-conforming,
she pushes
so.
those boundaries, and it rung very true to me from an early age for a lot of reasons. So Katang Yuri is real. No tinfoil
And
hat
it's like
needed.
even though we're like into this like traditional kind of straight ship as kids, I identified a lot with Aang. I'll talk about this more, but he means a lot to me as a character, and I think is a great role model, to myself and others growing up, and this like non-hyper masculine figure. I think it's really good stuff getting the show from kind of his perspective here. So yeah, I think there is a lot there with Katang. But anyway, what else? Oh, Meng. So Meng has the heart to heart with Aang, and she's just like, you don't like me. And she's like, I actually have been stalking you. I think that's what it is. She was just there for all
How
of this,
problematic
too.
is that now?
Oh, I mean, I
fine.
think it was
It's
problematic
harmless.
at the time, but it's it's like a kid. And then, but yeah, I think that was a great scene too. Then they're cloud bending. We've talked about that. Allie, how about the twins? One of them is an earthbender. I think you talk about this a lot.
Do I talk about that a lot?
I'm
It
not-
ca- maybe it came up in the genetics bending discussion.
I'm
Oh,
sure
I
it did
how
when
long
you were
ago was
doing your
that?
Punnett squares, and you're like, now wait
Yeah.
a minute, they're twins.
I don't think it checks out if it's all genetics, but maybe it does. I don't
I mean,
know.
I do remember talking about this. But
I think if
they
they would have to be like fraternal twins, for
I
it to
still think
work.
it's very interesting, and they should like.
Oh wait,
To
because you
create
said
that
there's
more in Avatar
twins.
stuff?
There's twin stuff coming up, right?
There's sibling stuff. Wait, are we talking about the novels? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
There's twins in this episode.
I know.
I don't know
I'm
if there
not
are
talking
twins.
about the novels.
Oh, I think there are twins in the spoilers for if you haven't read the Roku novel yet. I think he has a twin brother.
Oh, yeah,
I haven't read the book yet either. I've just seen like teasers. I mean, sibling, like if it's like twins are born and like one is the Avatar and one is not, is also interesting, but just like bending stuff too. And like we get into
Yeah.
it with Mako and Bolin later, where it's like you have two brothers, one's
Yeah.
a firebender, one's an earthbender. I still think it's very interesting and it could
Yeah.
create a lot of interesting dynamics, but like
Like,
you never get
that
enough
that
time in
the
this
twin is the
series.
Avatar is the one you talk about, but
Yeah. I
the
mean, I still
prominent.
like that, and I'm surprised that Roku's novel went for it, apparently, but we'll see how it goes when I read it.
Interesting. Interesting.
We'll figure it out. I know a lot of people are pissed about it already, so
I'm into that. I'm into the vibes of
I think
that.
it's cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the vibes. Depends on how it's executed.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
yeah, these twins here are funny. I'm an earthbender. I'm not.
Yeah, that's good. Cloud. Any more thoughts on the cloud bending? Be just beautiful
Yeah, I
stuff
mean,
there.
like that specifically was the thing that I was like, oh, this is like more overtly romantic than I thought it
I
was.
yeah,
Like
I
going
agree.
back in, I was like, oh yeah, and they do this, and like, yeah, when I was a kid, this was like a whole deal and stuff. But it's probably
Big deal.
not. But it's like, no, it is very overtly romantic in
I mean, I
a
think it's
way.
even like more overtly romantic than the jokey stuff that's going on through the whole episode. Like I know, like I mean, even at the end where Katara's like, I suppose he is. This still just it feels better when it's like no words are spoken between these
Right, and
characters and you can just
it's
sense the tension they have. Not
it's
tension,
not
but like
necessarily like at this point it's so romantic from Katara's perspective, but it's that
just generally they work
a
so
bonds that
well
they're sharing,
together.
you know, and they work well together, and also the
Well,
show
yeah, it's
portrays it as
and
somewhat
that's what it
romantic,
is,
right?
right? It's like the show
Mhm.
really casts that particular the cloud bending scene
Yeah,
in a very specific
and it's
way.
in the context of the romance episode too. So you're definitely framed to view it that way, and I think it's beautiful. And then Aang stops the lava eruption. I think that's a great scene. And yeah, that kid. Sometimes I forget about that kid's a powerful bender. Katara's like, I suppose he is, and it's this whole
Okay, but like
camera,
This is
this camera
you
pan, and
remember that he is the Avatar,
the
yeah,
way that he says it, like and then like it says word for word what
yeah, it's
she
pretty good.
says
It's
it,
like,
but it reminds me of there's this Family Guy bit about movies saying their titles in the movie, and Peter's in the theater is like, how'd they do that? And one of them is and that's how I became Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. And that's what it made me
that's
think
kind
of.
of yeah. I think that's what they're like going for that, but it's like very
That's how I
intentional too.
became the fortune teller.
I was like, I think
Yes.
it's one of my least favorite parts of the episode because it's like they're spelling it out for you. It's like we don't need that. Like
No, but I think it's funny. I think
it's
it's supposed to be
Well, and
funny.
it's
Like
I don't think
supposed
it's
to
supposed to
make
be
it
funny.
explicit.
I think it's supposed to be.
It's
Yeah,
supposed to be like, by the way,
they're
this
like
is what we're trying to say.
they're lampshading it in
Yeah.
TV tropes.
But I
They're
don't think it was supposed to
lampshading
be
it.
funny.
I
Maybe
think it's
like
I think the
I think
well, not
first
funny,
time they did it, it's
haha.
funny, right?
it's
Aang
not like
hears
funny,
it.
haha.
Yeah.
Aang hears it, and he's like so celebratory, and he's like, hell yeah.
No, yeah, sorry. I'm
And
talking about
then,
like the very end of the
yeah, and
episode
then
where
the second
Sokka
time they
is.
see it, they're like, hey, by the way, just in case you didn't get it, we were
Yeah,
being serious about it.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, all right.
and yeah. So we'll see if Qatar has a new view of Aang moving
We
forward.
won't, we
But
will
such
not
a
return to that for many episodes.
no. I don't remember really any romance until Cave of Two Lovers,
Yeah.
but we'll get there
Yeah, we'll
What do
eventually.
check
you
in on
Oh, we're talking about
Katara.
Katang
Yeah,
specifically.
we'll
Yeah,
check in on
Qatar
Katara in
specifically.
like a few
Look,
months.
they hug in the finale. Okay, it's important. Um, so
Yeah, they've never
there
done
you
that
go.
before.
A lot of hugging, and then floozy at the end, which we've covered
Shock.
extensively.
Shocking.
Look, perfect episode. No notes.
I find it entertaining. I think it once again like it's an insane episode to exist.
Yeah, it's
It
yes, I
does
agree.
nothing to further anything except that the Katang stuff, and but I find it entertaining. It's a fun episode to watch. I think it is very beautiful. I love the design in it. Um, yeah.
I'll keep talking about how the music is gorgeous every time if I have to, because it is.
Oh, I did get tickets by the way to the Avatar concert. So yeah,
You're gonna have a wonderful time, I think.
pretty hype.
It's
They
a
were
beautiful
expensive,
experience.
but
I think
Any
it's worth
other
it.
any other music, any specific music to call out from here?
Well, like the you mentioned like the sparkly like and then the heavenly
Yeah,
voices.
that's good.
I don't know, so it's just like really apart from like the volcano scene, I think it's like very calming
I
strings.
like the sort of mysterious music when that plays at the end when she's
Yeah,
like, oh, it's supposed to be like again to pick
I
that
like that
scene,
too
but
a
like
lot.
that sort of mysterious like music.
Hmm
It's pretty good.
Yeah, nice.
It's very good.
Just This episode directed by Dave Filoni. Just remember this ridiculous episode directed by that Star Wars guy. You know,
What do you mean
So-
that Star Wars guy?
Dave
the Star Wars
Filoni.
guy. Yeah.
What else? What on Star Wars
He's
did he
done
do?
like all Clone
He's-
Wars and
Oh, okay.
And he made he's making a show or made a show or something. He's like big in the whole Star Wars thing now.
Okay.
he did Rebels, I think.
And
I
I think
don't know
he's
these
involved in the
things.
live action stuff now.
Yeah, well, because they're turning a lot of his stuff that started
Yeah.
in animation into live
Wow.
action. So,
Man, why?
well, not in a way where they're doing a direct adaptation.
They're not
They're
not in a
taking
good
his
way because it's like part of the
characters
universe.
and putting
Yeah.
them in.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll take
he's
it.
like
That's-
involved with that stuff.
Very good.
There
Okay.
you go.
Forgiven.
Anything
Like a few of his
that-
characters have shown up in The Mandalorian. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Ashoka.
well,
Any Ahsoka, whatever. There.
Bo-Katan, others.
I think we're good on everything I'd written down in the outline. Allie, what else was on your mind about either Fortune Teller or any of these episodes?
I mean, I think the animation for the Storm and the Fortune Teller are great. It's by that studio that everyone
Yeah,
favors.
JM Animation. Yes.
It's pretty good.
That's
I mean,
good.
like I mentioned, the Storm and
That's
the Blue
good,
Spirit.
yeah.
Bring
It's
that back.
good. That is not this episode.
No.
No.
I have to say it's not this episode, but I'm glad a lot of people are bringing that back because as a kid I thought that was so
That's-
funny.
Yeah,
and
We
now
thought
I'm
it was,
seeing all over the
so
internet.
funny. It was so good.
It was so
yeah.
funny, and I didn't think anybody aside from y'all got me, and now the internet is having a field day with it, and I love it.
Okay.
But no, these episodes are great. Storm and the Blue Spirit are higher up on my list than I remember originally. I mean, season 1 so far is just pretty great. Flows a lot better than I remember.
Definitely.
Water
Mel?
pun. Not
Oh,
intentional.
Okay.
Flow Like Water.
Okay.
That was one of the songs from the movie. Flow Like Water.
It was. Not the movie. Oh, by the way, M. Night was not at the studio yesterday. It was his daughter.
Oh yeah, because she has a movie that came out.
No, she's a singer. She was performing.
Oh, one of his daughters has a movie coming out though.
I think she's also in a movie that he is
I
directing.
don't think people have context for what you're talking about, Allie. but
It's
that's
fine.
okay.
I don't care. It's for you guys.
Mel, Mel, anything else from the episodes?
No, I feel I've said my piece.
But you like these episodes.
I will say, I do. I will say it wasn't. I do remember speaking to our conversation in the last episode, Dylan, about how shipping stuff and that sort of thing. I do remember it being a big sticking point with people that like, well, they didn't say which powerful bender.
Well,
and
yeah,
Zuko
Zuko's a
had,
powerful
and, like,
bender too.
That is fair.
But is he a powerful bender?
And I just remember being like, yeah, but
It's pretty good.
The show made a point to say that it was Aang.
You guys don't understand the end
The
of
show
this
also made a
episode.
point to show that Zuko tries very hard, but he's not that good.
I think he's good. I mean, he's good enough to be
he's
Aang's master
not.
later, right?
Well, that's because he had no other option.
But I do
track that
remember that being a huge like in terms
Yeah, it
of
was
like to the extent of which I allowed myself to get in fights with other 13-year-olds on the internet. It was like about like I remember for whatever reason they like before the Crystal Cave scene, like they really honed in on like, well, like it could be Zuko, you know, and it's like, you know, I can't prove a negative to you until it happens. So it's like, you know what, you're right.
They're like the villagers in your Sokka.
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
Fortune teller.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what Zutarians are. Is to us, they were the villagers at the
Oh
time.
God.
We'll see. We're eagerly anticipating the finale for the Zutara moments. You know, so.
Trust me, Zuko, it's not going to be much of a match.
Oh, man.
She
A
slayed.
rematch or something like that.
I mean, how are
There you
you
go.
gonna fight a waterbender in a tundra? Anyway.
He's arrogant. That's all.
I believe that's what I got for these. Yep. So good stuff with these episodes. Some good discussion. We'll see. I'm coming up next. There'll be a little bit of a break for us, not for you guys, but maybe three of the episodes I remember the least. At least the next two, not as fresh.
Bato.
Bato and Deserter.
Deserter.
Not super fresh in my mind. Like
Deserter has some
Activist?
good Katang moments.
Oh, I don't remember that. I mean, I'm sure it'll like when I see it, I'll
love
remember. But
angst, okay, so that's like
okay.
bread and butter.
And then I think Northern Air Temple. I
Northern
remember
Air
more,
Temple,
but
that's what
also
it was.
also the
yeah.
Netflix show did it. So, But yeah, that'll be fun ones to cover before we get to Northern Water Tribe. So good stuff coming up. Let us know what comments you guys had on our discussion on these 3 episodes, what you thought of rewatching them or watching them maybe for the first time for some people. You can email us, podcast@overlyanimated.com. You can comment on the YouTube videos. Make sure you subscribe to youtube.com/overlyanimated if you're listening, or subscribe to our FTSW Rewatch iTunes feed, or the From the Spirit World feed, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron podcast, Kent. And thanks to our patron executive producer, Steve, Michael, and Phoenician. Stay tuned for more book 1 next week with Bato, Deserter, and Northern Air Temple. Any last thoughts here?
No, but I think we gotta end on Floozy, right?
Floozy? I was thinking the same thing, yeah. I wonder if we can someone fact check, did we end on
we totally
Floozy
have
in the past?
Oh, we've
Absolutely.
100% have.
By the way, Allie and I have like the same.
Absolutely.
But someone compile a list of things we've ended on. Is anyone? I don't know if someone.
We're gonna have to
who's
make a
listening to the
new
past.
intro based on stuff we've ended on,
Especially
just like clips
considering
of.
those
That's
episodes
true.
are like 3.5 hours long. I guess you could just skip to the
Oh,
end.
the old ones, yeah.
Yeah, they're really
Were
long.
our old ones really that long? Like the
Yeah,
Avatar
some
Some
of
of
them
days
them go
ones?
pretty long because you would have like 9 people on one episode.
Well, yeah, it's because there's some of them literally 20 people. Like, yeah, so.
They could get long.
Yeah, and then so okay, maybe we should go over some of the old co-hosts at some point. Go through the lists. Talk like who's this person? Some people,
remember
some
Mare,
iconic
Meredith?
people.
Yeah.
Mare, yeah.
I only recently unfollowed her on Instagram.
Mare's on the Core podcast.
She is
so,
a little
like,
bit,
it's
and
more
then she
recent.
went
We
off.
have some.
She did a
We've
spin-off.
okay. We don't need to get into it. We don't. And then there's.
She did a
the
spin-off
Avatar
podcast too.
Did she? I don't remember
that.
that.
About Mako or not
Makora.
Makora.
Yeah.
I'm not emotionally prepared to get to Makora content in Korra.
You shouldn't be. It doesn't hold up very well.
I don't
Does it
think
help
I'm-
you
I
to
don't-
know that it doesn't last?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that will help. It'll be very interesting to do the rewatch from the Korosami perspective.
Yeah.
So-
It's a wild ride.
I'm gonna just be
With
thinking
those
about it
scenes.
in the context of voice bending and their.
Their Asami is so good. She's perfect.
Okay, so that's good stuff to come. Not for a while, but let's end on Floozy. Thank you guys for listening. 1, 2, 3, Floozy.
Floozy.